The 359 is sponsored by USB Technology. The USB Implementers Forum reminds consumers that USB IF logos are displayed on certified USB products, so the next time you're shopping for a reliable USB charger, cable, or device, look for the logos. Get the whole story at enablingus.org. Hey folks, welcome and good morning to the 359, CNET's daily news program, brought to you in the same format as what used to be radio, now known as a live podcast. It's episode 451 on Wednesday, August 30th. We're coming at you from the CNET NY Studios, and I'm BVG. Let's commemorate today, because today was the day Skynet became self-aware back in 1997, and humanity as we know it was destroyed by the T-800 Terminator series. Now here are your hosts, Alfred Ng, Roger Cheng, and damn it.
Wow.
Hey, dude. It's great that you're really loud so we can hear you, but like it's hard. So like,
but
I don't
also,
think this...
thanks for starting the show off on such a bright note. You know, Terminator Apocalypse. That's what.
You know what's a brighter note to start today off of? It is 100 days until the new Super Smash Brothers comes out.
Woohoo! Wow! Yay!
My pre-order's in.
Right.
Oh, it is.
Right now, we're just gonna get Smash questions all throughout the entire show,
as it should be.
Brian, can we hear you? Are you is the audio fixed?
Can you not hear me out there?
Nope.
We can't hear you. Well, we can hear you kinda.
We can hear you physically, but not with like the speakers in our background.
Not with the technology that is powering the show.
All right, well, vamp for a second, and I'll try to fix that.
Talk louder.
Vamp. All right.
So anyway, King K.
Seriously,
Cruel
purple
was,
shirt, purple shirt crew.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Yeah.
so we planned this, by the way. I knew he was coming on,
Called
and I
you
called him
night.
last night. Exactly.
Yep.
We're like, all right, purple shirt.
Oh, Brian is on. Brian, how come you never just sit here with us?
I know.
We missed you, man.
You can see the top of his head. No, you can't. All right, there it is. All right.
By the way, so we'll just get into the topic. So we've got David on for a reason. Aoife is here. We've already got some TV news, and we'll talk specifically about 8K TV technology as a feature.
Oh yeah.
He'll explain what it is, because I'm not entirely sure what it is beyond the fact that it's supposed to be sharper.
It's just 8,000 TVs
It's more
put together.
You buy one, you get 8,000 for free.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be a great deal, actually. And we'll really break down all TV news and take your questions about all things TVs, because that's what David's here for. He knows more about TVs than anyone else in the world, really.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually,
Yeah.
8 times as much as anybody else in the world.
8,000, you mean?
Yeah, right.
Hey,
Yeah. The
8K.
next person down is.
Sure.
All right, can you hear me now?
Whoa, yes.
Hey.
All right, we're
Brian.
back.
I'm a genius.
You are.
All right, let's get the show on.
All right, let's do it. So as always, if you have any questions, mostly for David, not for us, unless they're Smash questions, leave them in the comments section. Brian will pick out the best, and we'll get them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
From 3 to...
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Alfred Ng.
And with us is special guest and TV wizard, David Katzmaier. He's
Hey,
here.
guys.
What? By the way, he's not actually a wizard, but he's...
Well, I'm like a level 0.
Okay.
I just learned cantrips.
There we go. He's here because IFA is upon us, and we've already got some TV news. Dave, can you break down some of the early announcements from LG and Sharp?
Yeah, we saw those guys basically rolled out 8K TVs. So these things we've seen before actually at CES, and since like 2014, honestly, I've been talking about these things. LG showed their 88-inch 8K OLED concept TV. You thought, 77-inch OLEDs were expensive at 10 grand. Imagine this thing. And then Sharp has its own 8K TV. They're known for really large presentation monitors. That's what this is. It's not a real consumer product.
So let's just break down what 8K is. Is it just twice as sharp a resolution as 4K? Or
You'd think, but it's actually 4 times as sharp.
Oh, so even better.
Right. The math is, and I have it in front of me, so I don't get it wrong.
Why do they call it
8K
16K?
is 7680 by 4320, which is 33,177,600 pixels. And 4K is a mere 8 million. So
Sure, all right.
it's a lot. It's a lot smaller pixels and a lot more.
And so bottom line, I mean, what does that mean for the end user, the person watching this TV? Is it really a noticeable benefit?
No.
Okay.
I mean, how many
End the podcast there.
how many TV shows are even like recording in like 8K?
Well, not every show's even recording 4K.
This is
at
a
this point.
podcast, so you're
0.
Okay.
There are actually a couple of movies that were shot in HK, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was shot in HK, in 8K, for
Really?
example. A couple of upcoming movies as well. That's just the film part, because the CGI has to be a lot lower resolution, because CGI takes a heck of a lot more processing power to deal with than normal video. But yeah, there really aren't that many 8K cameras out there. The content is just getting started. Netflix and those guys, haven't really done anything with it. There are some 8K quote unquote videos on YouTube, but they're really hard to watch in real 8K and blah 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 blah. So it's super early.
So what is the point of putting these things out? Is it basically like planting a flag on the ground saying, "Hey, we're investing in 8K. Everyone else start jumping on this bandwagon"? Or?
Yeah, and these guys have been showing these things for a while. Rumor has it that Samsung's going to come out with an 8K TV later at IFA. So yeah, these guys want to get in and kind of get it started essentially. So get the TVs out there, and then they think the content's going to follow.
I feel like these standards upgrade so quickly that by the time everybody has an 8K TV and everything is being filled with 8K cameras, it's like, oh, check it out, we got 16K now.
Yeah,
that's probably true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I still have a 1080p TV at home. I don't even have a 4K TV.
In terms of 4K content, it's still not ubiquitous, right? There are a lot of channels.
Yeah.
There are channels that weren't even broadcasting in HD for a while, right?
There's no TV broadcasts in 4K regularly, and there's a few streaming shows, mainly originals on Amazon and Netflix and those places. But long story short, 4K content isn't really even here yet, and now we're talking about 8K.
So is this? I mean, you mentioned concept. Are these all concepts, or are we actually going to see these in the market anytime soon?
None of these ones that we've seen announced so far are buyable. The rumor has it that Samsung's is going to be buyable. We'll find out. At CES earlier this year, they showed an 8K TV that they said you were going to be able to buy later this year, so we're thinking that's going to be it.
And so why would you want to buy one if there's no content?
Bragging rights?
Stun on your friends, yo.
Yeah,
it's true.
You can dunk all over those 4K people. 8K TV.
But again, if you've got an 8K TV and there's no 8K content, what do you like? Is the 4K content? Does it look better? At least?
So Samsung says that it has AI processing technology.
Of course it does.
That
AI is going to be a very big buzzword at IFA.
Everything's going to be AI will make that 8K TV sing with 4K and 1080p in your VHS content.
Okay. I really want to play. I really want to play a VHS cassette recorder on an 8K TV.
Just blow it up as big as you can get it.
All right. For more of these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Alfred Ng.
David Katzmaier.
Thanks for listening.
Very jazzy.
Oh yeah. Jazz hands.
You guys can tease all you want, but the audience likes my music.
Oh yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining us for the recording of the audio podcast that'll publish later. We'll tell you where to find it. And for now, I'm going to jump into the chat and dig out some questions and comments. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to Wanyoni, coming all the way from Kenya. I love hearing that we got these awesome international audience members.
Sweet.
In the meantime, let's jump in and take one from Brian Matthews. He says, instead of an 8K TV, how about an 8K projector? TI properly see, would we see a difference in an 8K TV? It would have to be like 100 inches big.
So yeah, you're on the right track. The larger an image, the more you're liable to appreciate the extra resolution. Same thing, if you sit closer to the picture, you're going to appreciate it more. So yeah, sitting really close to a really gigantic TV is your best chance of appreciating 8K, and might as well make it a projector.
That's how I watch my 4K TV.
Okay,
I'm like 2 inches from it.
We were all raised, our moms told us don't sit close to the TV, it'll ruin your eyes.
Right. Our moms never had 8K TVs,
That's
baby.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? It's totally worth ruining your eyes to see that extra detail. Totally worth it. Taking it.
We have some skeptics in the audience today. People are asking.
I am shocked.
No,
really?
you
We have skeptics in the room.
Wait, they're not all 8K believers already?
What's the matter with you people?
I'm not
it's
signed
right
up.
there with curved TVs, 3D TVs. What else?
You can. That's plenty. You just say curved TV and you can walk away.
Curved TVs.
Yep.
Done.
They still exist, by the way.
That's shocking.
Right.
Daniel Peters says, how clear can you get, really? Matthew Datcher says, can humans really see the difference between 4K and 8K at the current size of home TVs? And Sanjay says, I believe that the human eye can't see beyond 2K.
Right. So all of that stuff is generally true. It all depends on the seating distance, the screen size, what you're actually watching. If you're just looking at still lines, they're really easy to differentiate. Picture an eye chart at your optometrist. It's really easy to see those E's when they're not moving. But, most people watch TV that moves.
Yeah.
Color.
Yeah.
Color resolution is a whole other issue. So all these things combined mean that in general, it's really hard to tell the difference. And of course, if you don't have 20/20 vision, if you're not a fighter pilot, it's really hard to, again, appreciate this extra definition.
So is this just it's a marketing thing?
To a large extent. I'm not going to say that until I actually get it in the lab and see it side by side.
Sure.
That AI might blow anybody's mind.
Right.
But from what we've seen to compare 1080p and 4K back in the day with two 65-inch TVs right next to each other, basically the exact same except for the resolution, it was really hard to tell. It's 65 inches sitting about 8 feet away, which is pretty damn close. So 8K will be even harder.
So I want to ask about Apple and the iMac, because they tout a 5K iMac. And I've never actually looked at one, but is that somewhere in the spectrum, or is 5K a marketing term?
So we have looked at that. And again, with 4K content, upscaled slightly, to match the 5K, it's really hard to tell. And again, it's all about a really tiny screen, compared to a TV, an iMac screen. And you got to sit really close, and you got to have the content be the kind of content like stills or highly detailed stuff that really shows it off. So if you see demos of this stuff, you're going to see slow pans over nature and things with a lot of lines, and really that kind of content is what they use to show off this extra resolution.
I just imagine Katzmaier going to like a friend's house who like claims they have a 4K TV, and he's just like inches away from the screen. Like, no, it's not.
Well, you need a liar. You need to be like a jeweler's magnifying thing up to the screen to actually see the pixels. Even with 4K TVs, especially the small ones. So imagine an 8K TV. The pixels are going to be literally indiscernible.
So you can just tell people you have an 8K TV, and no one would be able to tell the difference.
I should tell people that now.
Well, these ones, if they get launched, we might have to actually go up with a microscope to actually see that they're 8K. We can't take these guys' words for it.
Anyway, if you're looking at our set on background, this is our 52K TV that
brand new prototype,
super ultra high definition.
Yeah. It was made specifically for our show.
Ironically, as we're locked in the 1080p on the outgoing streamer here.
So you can't appreciate the 52K.
No, just tell everybody it's 8K, man.
Yeah,
they'll never know.
It's like bragging about that Canadian girlfriend that no one can ever prove that you have. It's like, yeah,
she doesn't go to school.
It's
I got
32K.
She's 8K, and I look at her super close. I can totally tell the difference.
She doesn't go to our school. You don't know her.
All right, let's take one from N. Sanjay. 8K offers better aliasing over 4K? That's a question. Does 8K offer better aliasing over 4K? Because in the studios, they only use 5 to 6K cameras.
Yeah, so again, it really helps to capture at a higher resolution. Studios love 8K and all that stuff in the cameras.
Because it gives you room to play on the edit side and polish up your boo-boos.
Our editor guy can tell us. In fact, they can frame stuff really wide and then just use the parts that they want of the image.
Okay.
And when we were talking about 4K, that was one of the things they were really excited about. Sony Pictures said, we love 4K. We can make the 1080p image whatever we want. Same thing with 8K, even writ larger. With aliasing, again, it'd be really hard to see the difference in practice. I think that's basically just jagged edges smoothing out. Again, that'll show it more readily than anything else. But already with 4K, it's really hard to see if the content's produced well.
Okay.
All right, here's one from Ryan Williams. Let's take actually a few from the same train of thought. When does it get to a point when our eyes can't notice the difference? Jacob Lombardo expands. This is a serious question. At one point, do these increase in resolution go past the human eyes? I'm sensing a trend here.
The short answer is yes, they're already past the human eye. So if you think about a 50-inch 4K TV, there's a bunch of math. I don't know off the top of my head, so I'm not going to say it right now. But if you get close enough, you can kind of see a difference. But if you get a little bit further back, and I have test patterns where there's literally lines, 38, 20 lines, and if you get back close far enough, they blend together. And for everybody else, that's slightly different depending on your vision. But if you're in that range, all of a sudden, the resolution doesn't matter at all. And there are a lot of people that claim, oh yeah, I can see it, or side by side, blah, blah, blah. But if you talk to an optometrist, there is a real limit to human vision. And with 4K at 50 inches, you're kind of already there. If you go, again, a lot larger screen, sit a lot closer, you might be able to see some difference with 8K. And it's not a hard stop because there's a lot of pixels in between 8K and 4K. So, there's a range, but at the end of the day, we're kind of already there. And that's kind of what Apple was talking about with its Retina displays, for example. You're at the level of being able to not discern the difference. And phone screens are kind of already there as well. With very large phone screens, high resolution, there's really no benefit to putting extra pixels on those things. So TVs are larger screens, so they're going to try and get a little higher on the number.
So ultimately, this is a matter of, 4K has kind of run its course in terms of like buzz or hype. So they've just needed to invent a new term.
Well, a lot of things about 4K. For example, you can buy a 4K TV for like $300 now or less. So that's an issue for manufacturers. They want to be able to charge more and make profits, which they're companies. That's what they do.
Right. They need to have a premium brand, premium feature to tout.
The other issue is that OLED out there, which is a real improvement in picture quality, OLED TVs from LG and others, those are, the best in picture quality right now. And if you have a not OLED TV, LCD, like Samsung and Vizio and other guys make, they don't make an OLED TV. They want to be able to have something that you can put up against OLED and say, hey, look, these guys may have amazing contrast and color and off angle and all this stuff, but we have more pixels. So, we're better.
All right.
We have more of these things that you can't
pixels.
even see.
Well,
Right?
that's exactly what it boils down to. 8 is higher than 4, and if you're comparing a 4K
twice as high.
OLED to an 8K LCD, especially if that 8K LCD costs the same or a little bit lower, and you're in the store and you're going, 8's higher than 4, give me the 8.
Oh, so that's an interesting point. Do you think the 8K TVs will be cheaper than the OLEDs?
It depends. So, like I said at the beginning, a 77-inch OLED TV right now is about 10 grand, 8 to 10. That's massively expensive, obviously, but the 65s are in the $2,500 range. So I don't think these, let's say Samsung comes out with a 65-inch 8K TV. I don't think that thing is going to be less than the 65-inch OLED at $3 grand.
Okay.
I especially at the beginning, because these things just started coming out.
Right.
Another thing with 8K is that there's HDMI 2.1, which is a new standard for HDMI transmission that can handle the higher bandwidth and higher resolution. And it's kind of exciting for us TV nerds that maybe this will be the first TV that has HDMI 2.1, which would be kind of neat.
All right, this is an extra nerdy question, but
Yep.
when do we get rid of those HDMI cables and go completely wireless?
Talk to Apple. Seems like there's an opportunity there. AirPlay 4.
Definitely, yeah.
But no, I think they're going to be around for a while because it's just really efficient, and there's not, once you hide the cables behind your TV and everything, nobody really understands they're there. When you're walking around the phone, wireless has a lot more of a benefit.
Yeah.
But within the TV, there are wireless HDMI solutions out there right now, and they work pretty well. So, if you really want to get rid of the wire, it's great with projectors and long cable runs and things like that. You can buy one, but they're, just not that practical.
Okay.
I gotta wonder what the impact is going to be on bandwidth for content delivery if we keep blowing up the pixels. I almost said
Where 5G comes in, it's all about 5G, man.
That's a really good point. So if you're Comcast or you're a purveyor of bandwidth, you're loving all these increases in resolution because they just suck down the megabits and make people upgrade their packages for internet home delivery. So right now they call for 15 to 20 megabits per second for 4K streaming for Netflix and those guys. Just do a little bit of math. Nobody's amassed anything, but I'm figuring at least 40 to 50 megabits per second to stream a single 8K show. Now,
and for a lot of households, that's the entire bandwidth.
Who has that?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, seriously. And if you don't, then hey, let's go out and pay extra for it. So
exactly.
Everybody makes a lot of money.
That actually kind of plays into the comment coming in from Jade49 asking, can 8K TVs really only function in big sizes? To which I kind of chuckled to myself a little bit because I'm picturing those little CRT TVs you used to get that were portable. It's why would you want 8K content? But no, for phones. When that makes sense.
Yeah. So and another thing where you're talking about phones, it kind of makes sense. Virtual reality is an area where higher resolution does make sense as well. Yeah. So right now with VR, you're kind of limited to the phone screen, and the way phones work is, and you put something in your Samsung Gear VR, you got to use half of the resolution on the phone. So if you can double that resolution, then you can get rid of the screen door effect, get some nice
8K would
cool
actually make
effects.
sense on a mobile device or on a VR headset.
Yes,
device.
I think there's some room for the extra pixels to pay a dividend.
Okay. Although there's only, I think, as far as I know, there's only one 4K phone out there, and I think that's a Sony.
Yeah, and the way manufacturing works, these guys have to get on board and start putting them out at that higher resolution.
That's the only real use case that I can see that makes sense for 4K on a phone. Though, those screens are too small for there to be any real other tangible benefit, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is, again, the shooting side of it makes sense with the editing, but when you're consuming it on, video or VR or anything like that, I think it's hard to think up another use case besides VR. We actually wrote an article, I'm trying to Google it right now, about when 4K isn't enough, the case for higher resolutions. And it talks about VR, it talks about 360 cameras, which is another market where it shoots in every direction, and the
but
pixels.
that's less about the screen and more about the camera, right?
Right, exactly. That's a capturing thing, and PCs and gaming. So this is something where resolution can go up a little bit in PCs, and you get textures and things like that going on. So,
although we're now just getting the console games in 4K, right?
Right.
Like they're just catching up to it.
And that gets
Like
back
Smash.
to what I said at the beginning. So
Actually, Smash is not going to be in 4K.
No, Switch. None of the Switch games are.
It's
4K.
it's in HD, but it's not 4K.
the whole problem with all this extra resolution is that it requires so much more processing power on the CGI side, which can include video games or movies or whatever. When you're generating graphics at these high resolutions, you often get to the point, you talk to gaming guys, and we look at games. Is it better to have 1080p at 60 frames a second, or less resolution at 120 frames per second? The smoother frame rate looks better, and you only have so much bandwidth, so you're sucking up all this bandwidth with static pixels to make higher resolution, whereas you can use the bandwidth to, again, increase frame rate.
Yep.
You can increase color definition. You can do a lot of other things with the bandwidth besides using it for pixels. So, a lot of people say HDR. 1080p HDR is sometimes going to look better than 4K non-HDR. So you're spending your pixels not on increasing detail, but increasing other areas of picture performance that are much more important.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Josh Boyda was just asking about what's better, 4K or 1080p with HDR.
Right. So 1080p HDR is really non-existent right now. You only get it if you're watching Netflix and your Netflix hasn't scaled up to 4K yet. When you first turn it on, it's like boop, 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 boop. You can actually watch some 1080p HDR for a couple seconds, or if you have that slow connection. But right now, it doesn't really exist. 4K and HDR go hand in hand right now in the market. So all the 4K Blu-ray discs have HDR on them. They're 4K. There's no real 1080p HDR out there. But you can see that happening, for example, with broadcast or cable, where bandwidth is a lot more limited. And these guys have to send out, as efficient a signal as they can. And maybe you'll opt for, again, sacrificing some of that pixel, some of that resolution to get better. HDR increases your contrast. It makes color better. There's a lot of benefits to HDR. I definitely prefer it. If you're going to choose between HDR and 4K, I'll take HDR every time.
Jacob Lombardo, this is going to be the next 3D useless feature flop. No provider is going to make 8K footage since the extreme price and no difference in human eyes seeing the video picture. James Taylor, I love your music. We have zero cable signal at 4K, so why are we even talking about this? I mean, I'm going to be uncharacteristically forgiving and optimistic because it's fun technology.
Yep.
But, Katz, is there really any benefit to this besides the cosmetic appeal?
Well, okay, let me take a step back. We said very similar things when 4K came out, and it's really hard to tell the difference with 4K, right? But turn around today, 4K is everywhere. All it takes is scaling up of the technology.
Is it?
It's kind of everywhere, okay? It's
you can
in a lot more
get
places than it used to be. Right.
Yeah.
If you pay Netflix $15 a month, you get buttloads of 4K and never able to watch it all.
And by the time it's in every home, 8K is already going to be obsolete.
Well, is the debut of 4K, 8K TVs right now making 4K obsolete? Absolutely not. In fact, it's not even making 1080p obsolete. All these things can coexist. They're still out there, and the point is that, in a couple years, every TV is going to be 8K. Just like right now, almost every high-end mid-range TV above $200 and $300, above 50 inches, is 4K.
Right.
So with LCD, which is the predominant display technology, it's super easy to scale up resolution. So there's no reason for these guys not to make everything 8K as soon as possible, regardless of what happens on the content side.
I set him up, you knock him down, Katz. From Fernando, at what size screen do you think the advantage of 8K comes into play? I want projector-sized TVs. 50 to 78 is not big enough. I want the cinema experience.
All right, so 100 inches. I'll just throw it out there. I mean, and how close can you sit to a 100-inch TV without ralphing?
2 feet, 3
yeah,
feet.
right. Do you like to be the dude in the front of the movie theater? I'll put it that way. Because that guy might be able to see the difference on an 8K screen. Bringing up movie theaters, 4K projection is out there in movie theaters, and if you sit close enough, you can see the pixels. So right there is a real benefit to getting 8K projection. Samsung itself makes these cinema screens, which are wall-size, crazy, awesome displays for movies, and you can see those things really benefiting from 4K. But sure, 100 inches is fine. Again, you got to look close, you got to have the right content, you got to sit close, blah, 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 blah.
So speaking of content, Larry Mitchell's asking, how soon are we actually going to see contents showing up in 8K? Do we know of anybody who's working on developing new programming or film in
2020.
8K?
because NHK, which is the broadcaster in Japan, is coming out with, they've already announced 8K footage for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be...
That does make sense.
And it makes perfect sense because you can stage the Olympics. Everybody knows what's happening. It's super easy to film that stuff.
Yeah.
They've been doing 4K Olympic stuff for a while. So yeah, I think that's going to be the first time it really comes out. So it makes sense for there to be a few TVs out there that you can watch it on.
Okay. There you go.
Ricky B, would you rather have resolution or refresh? Which is more important in the long run?
Well, there's a point at which resolution is important, and then after that it becomes unimportant and refresh becomes more important. But the downside of refresh is, has anybody seen The Hobbit in high refresh rate or watched Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, which was a movie that Ang Lee filmed in 120 frames per second, and it was shown in 60 frames per second, and it's really, really smooth and looks really weird. So the refresh rate issue with video games, kind of as much as you can get, is great. But with film, a lot of people are used to and want the 24p look of film where refresh rate really doesn't help you at all. So, and for example, a lot of sports are shot and shown at 60 frames, and that's really nice. But it'd be awesome if you could show them at 120 frames because your eye, I don't really know what your eye refresh is at, but it's higher than 60 or even 120. You can tell the difference. So, for anything but film, I'll take refresh rate once it's, say, 4K resolution or higher.
It's interesting how organically this conversation is flowing because N. Sanjay is asking, why do films still use 24 frames?
Legacy, that's what people are used to. So
I think there's also an element that it's not about the highest quality of delivery, it's about the manipulation of your emotions. So the element of lower frame rate sometimes implies harder, faster action. That's heavily used in a lot of action films. I used to use it when I would shoot music videos just for the sake of the drama, and it added an increased sense of, I don't know, enhanced action, really.
Yeah, and right now, for example, you talk to guys that really like it, like Ang Lee. Who's the Titanic guy? I keep forgetting.
James Cameron.
So he's a big advocate of high frame rate in film, and so he's talking about doing Avatar 2 in high frame rate. Peter Jackson, obviously, with The Hobbit. So these guys really believe in the high frame rate.
Right.
And they think that, this is how our film should look. And they're the directors. And, far be it from us, the viewer, to say, this would be better if it was 24p. So it all really is totally subjective, much more than something like detail. The frame rate of film, most people want to shoot in 24p. Cameras are in 24p for a reason. And, that's what people are used to. But I think if we had evolved in a different track and, we'd all evolved with 60 frame per second film, that wouldn't be an issue and everybody would, not really care about that.
All right, we got to wrap things up.
Yeah, I just realized that time ran away. Sorry, we always have fun with cats. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Throw in your comments about what 4K, 8K displays you're excited about, or HDMI, wireless HDMI cables. Keep the conversation going without us. Roger, take us on out.
All right, our podcast is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Feedburner, Google Play Music, Google Play Podcasts, and Amazon Alexa, and of course, CNET.com. See you all tomorrow.
Bye, folks.
Bye.